One. All right. Welcome everybody. It's Dan, and today I got friend Hans, also known as a son of Mercury.
Hello.
And Josh can't make it tonight, but he'll be back for the next one. But anyway, we wanted to do kind of a Spider-Man special because No Way Home is coming out this week, and just go over some of our favorite Spider-Man stories, some memories we have, and go over the movies as well to the best of our ability. So I'm gonna say something controversial, but and then let you take it, Hans. I think Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man movie. I wasn't a huge fan of Into the Spider-Verse. I didn't think it was bad, but I don't think it was as good as everybody thinks it is.
Okay. Well, I agree. I think, I don't know. I think Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man up until Tom Holland, but I believe every portrayal that Tom Holland has done of Spider-Man has been pretty on point. I didn't really care for Into the Spider-Verse either. Um, it's just maybe it's because I'm older, so I've seen the multiverse, Spider-Verse crisscross so many times in so many different ways. I think the best way that Spider-Verse ever crisscrossed was when they did it in the animated series in the 90s.
Oh, I agree with you there with Madam Web.
Yeah, I think and what was it, the Beyonder? I
Yep.
think that was the best Spider Verse crossover that they've ever done. I just can't get on board with the constant recycling of it all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I've seen this for 30 years now. Let's do something new. Certainly somebody has another idea. But playing back to your last episode, I definitely tuned in and listened to that. And you know what? Before we get too far into this, I was also going to go ahead and say I've listened to y'all's episode and I love what you guys are doing, and I'm definitely here to support you guys and get the word out, to support your indie comics and support what Godfrey's out here doing. I'm all in on that, so I just want to put that out there for any listeners as well. But
Thanks, thanks, man.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Um, but yeah, no, it's just but Spider-Man 2, of everything up until Tom Holland joined, Spider-Man 2 was the best. Um, but I think when you're debating which Spider-Mans you like more or less, you also have to think about what each one is offering. If you want a darker, more adult themed, um, uh, more Batman esque, I guess vigilante esque Spider Man, you're going to want to go with Andrew Garfield. You're probably going to think his are better. Um, the original uh, Spider Man movies, to break through that initial barrier, that comic book barrier, it hadn't been done since Blade did it. Um, Playing more on the classic Spider Man um, storylines and villains, then you want to go with Tobey Maguire, especially if you're feeling nostalgic about it. And then if you want to just be up to date with the MCU and just have a really good modern day Spider-Man who's applicable to comic books today, then yeah, Tom Holland's your guy. So I think it also depends on what you're looking for too.
Yeah, I I'm gonna say in this order or in this way. I think Tobey Maguire is the best overall Spider-Man as far as the comics go. Um, because he's the only one that's actually kind of dopey. he, he just has that kind. I mean, he was in the movie Loser for crying out loud, wasn't he? Or was
Yeah.
that No, maybe he was in Pecker. I think what's his name from American Pie was in Loser.
No, that was you're talking about Jason Biggs.
Yep, he was in Loser. Okay, yeah, that's the one that had a Wheatus Teenage Dirtbag as like the theme
Yeah.
song. All right,
Yeah, he was in the American Pie. He was
yeah.
yeah, that's him.
Toby Maguire was in Pecker, I think. But anyway, he's just. I mean, he's like a little bit. He's tall and he was. I don't know, he just looked like he looked like classic awkward college Spider-Man.
Right.
And I think Kristen, what's her name? Kirsten
Dunst.
Dunst. I think Kirsten Dunst is the
Yep.
absolute worst Mary Jane.
Agreed.
I don't think she pulled it off. I don't think she was the redhead bombshell that we all wanted. But I think those movies up until Spider-Man 3 were great, and like they still blow my mind when I like think about them and watch them. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of the Green Goblin's costume. In fact,
No.
if you look at the concept costumes they made, they were so much better. But
Well, and I think that the idea, I understand why they went with the helmet,
yeah,
because if you're going to be flying on a glider and you're trying to be practical because you're trying to sell it to an audience, you're not going to sell a guy in a hood on a glider. You're going to sell a guy with a helmet on a glider. I mean, I get that, but they could have made the helmet design better. I don't know.
yeah, I miss some of the color. Like it's all green. It just kind of looks a little awkward, a little aged.
And it's like a reflective green too, like a metallic green. It's not like scary bright green goblin skin. If you know painting and stuff like that, like figurine painting. It's not like this big, green. It's just like a metallic, sleek metal green. It's weird looking.
Yeah, I think I loved Willem Dafoe, of course, and I loved Doc Ock. I just think that those first two were fantastic. And I'm gonna be honest, I barely remember the Garfield ones. I've forgotten the lizard even existed until the
Yeah.
trailer. Um, I feel bad. Jamie Foxx. I feel like he got handed a really bad role as Electro. Like I don't remember Electro ever being this kind of whimpering, simpering dude, and then becoming Electro. And I could be wrong.
Well, this new Electro is going to be a little bit. He's going to be a little bit better. But with Jamie Foxx is reprising. They showed the trailer. He's back as Electro, but he's yellow instead of blue. And which classic Electro was always yellow lightning, not blue lightning. And I don't know why that makes a difference, but I guess to purists that does. And but the key thing is that they kind of redid his character from what I read. I mean,
Yeah,
from rumor.
and I'm glad
I
about
mean, all
that.
I'm reading is rumor sites, so I don't know what's legit and what's not. But I've read that they kind of hit the reset button on his character for this No Way Home.
Yeah, and I think he looks great in the trailer. Like I think that's a much needed improvement.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of liked how they did. I know I'm going in order here, but I kind of like how they did some of the Goblin stuff in Amazing Spider-Man. Like I think the kid that played Harry, I know he always gets typecast as the moody kid, but he's really good at it. I forget his name. He was in Chronicle. Um,
Wait, are you talking about the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man?
no, I'm talking about Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't because he was the Green Goblin, right? I don't think his dad was an Amazing Spider-Man. I think they just kind of put Norman on the deathbed, didn't they?
I'm pretty sure they did. There was one,
Yeah,
I don't remember which title it was, but I do remember Norman kind of sat sidebar and Harry kind of took over for a while.
yeah, and I thought some of the way they did that was cool. I like that when Stacy died. I I like that Harry was kind of a loser. I mean, they can't get. I think what's weird is what's his name the guy who plays Harry, Seth Rogen's friend.
James
James
Franco.
Franco. James Franco kind of got crap whenever that movie first came out, I think. But I mean, he plays like Golden Age Harry. Like he plays like classic Harry. He was kind of this rich kid, kind of awkward, kind of loser who got strung along by Mary Jane.
Well, I thought his Harry played excellent compliment to Willem Dafoe's Norman.
Yeah, I think
And I
that was
thought
a
that
great power dynamic. Yeah,
and I think that with Peter too, with Toby playing Peter. I mean, that whole group, even though Kirsten Dunst wasn't maybe the visually appealing the Mary Jane people were looking for, she still played her role, to the best of her ability. And, as a role, as the character, you know, she played her spot well.
I think one of the best scenes is from Spider-Man 1 where they're having Thanksgiving or Christmas, whichever one it is, and it's like straight out of the comic scene. Norman shows up, everybody's happy, you think it's fine, and then he realizes that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and he instantly turns. And the person he attacks most is Harry when he insults MJ and everything. I mean, that when he basically calls her a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great scene. That's straight out of the comics. I mean, it's one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a comic book movie as far as doing the characters right.
If I'm not mistaken, they were at Harry and
Peter's apartment.
Harry and Peter's apartment for Thanksgiving dinner, and Aunt May and Mary Jane were over, and Peter had just gotten in a fight with
the Green
Goblin,
yep,
and had a slice on his arm, and he bled through his shirt, and then that's what gave it away.
Because he said, "Bike messenger, knock me down."
Yeah, and then he said, "Hold on, I got to go change shirts or something like that." And he went into his room, and then Norman gets up, and Norman follows him into his room, and he doesn't see him because Peter is on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And he drips the drop of blood, and the drop of blood splashes down, and Norman's heightened senses from the goblin gas hears the blood splash down, and then he looks up, and Peter's gone because Peter then bailed out the balcony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or maybe I got it reversed. Maybe that happened first. Then Peter bailed out the balcony. He came back around, had a shirt on, and then said, "I'm late."
I think they were there because they were like, "Where's Peter?" He came in through the window. Everybody was at that. I mean, you described it right. Yeah, you were right. But
right.
Yeah, that's a great scene. And I think Willem Dafoe did a great job portraying like a believable, unhinged dude and a huge. I mean, the Green Goblin is the definition of campy comic book. I mean, he's the closest that Marvel got to the Joker at that point. Like, he was over the top, he was deadly, he was crazy, he was a loose cannon, and he was your best friend's dad.
Yeah. And then how do you get around that? And then, and he always kind of, I don't ever think there was a villain that came close. If you're going to do a Joker comparison there, which is absolutely fair, I don't think there was ever a villain in Spider-Man that came close. And now, the rivalry, there's always been a stark rivalry between all of the goblins and Spider-Man. I mean, that's just Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, whatever you are. The goblins always hate Spider-Man, but that insanity that's there, that really, it speaks for something, because the gas drove him crazy. That's what
separated him.
The gas was driving them crazy. They weren't even able to control their insanity, and they didn't even know.
Well, that's what separated him from the Hobgoblin. Was the Hobgoblin, whichever one you want. One was like a thief. One was like a rich guy.
They were thugs, what they were. They were like brutes. Yeah.
One died and became like Demo Goblin.
Yeah, the Hobgoblins were like career criminals. They weren't superpowered. They were just like career criminals who got a hold of some hot tech and put on a goblin mask. And I'm not downplaying them. I'm not shorting them out. I mean, that's just what they were. They weren't superpowered. They were just like thugs, right? They're like career criminals.
I think I get so confused. I think one was supposed to be like a genius on par with Norman, but then they kind of abandoned it. I don't remember, but
yeah,
it doesn't matter. I mean, Green Goblin, Norman Osborn is the best one, like hands down. And,
he is the Goblin, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. Harry wasn't bad as the Green Goblin. It was a little bit more tragic with him, but I don't think he was the better Goblin. And they did. I mean,
right.
And I mentioned it, I think last time, they did do a pretty good run with him as Kindred. I bought a few of those comics where he kind of came back from the dead, and he could control like bugs and like these gigantic centipedes that could eat people alive, and that's really cool. But I mean, I don't really dig when they do like magic in Spider-Man. It just seems weird. Like,
it depends on who, though. I mean, if you're doing Morbius or Doctor Strange, or if you're doing
Morbius is science. Yeah, but you're right. Blade is magic. Yeah, Morbius is the living vampire. Morbius was 100%. I mean, he fought magic creatures, but he was science.
Him and Blade were partners though in Black Cat. For a while.
Yeah, and that was a great run.
and that's what you get when you put science with Morbius, and you put
Mm-hmm.
the super soldier serum with Black Cat, so she could do everything Captain America could do, and then you have Blade, with his magic, and then you combine the three, and you're getting like,
Yeah.
you're getting the was it you're getting the what's the DC equivalent? The
Justice League
Dark
Dark.
Justice League. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting Justice League Dark and three people right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know. I don't want to go off on a tangent. I mean, we could talk about that for an hour. Maybe we will. Um,
Yeah.
um, but no, the amazing Spider-Man, which is the Andrew Garfield ones. I've never watched them more than that one time I saw them. I don't think they were bad. It's just they weren't remembered. They weren't the landmark first ones, and then they weren't they're the middle child, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
I was gonna say the thing I remember of all of them is two things. One is Emma Stone should have always been Mary Jane because she would have been a lot better Mary Jane than Kirsten Dunst.
yeah,
But she was Gwen Stacy, unfortunately. But I think I mean, I think she would have been the better redhead for it. But also, um, I, I'm glad that they had her die because you can't have Gwen Stacy live. You got to have Gwen Stacy die. I mean, that's just a thing. Also, Rhino. Those are the two things I remember. Gwen Stacy dying, and I was happy. I was like, oh, good, they killed her. And then the Rhino suit at the very end, like, I don't know if it's post credits or end credit scene of that last one with Electro with Andrew Garfield. They had the Rhino in the Rhino suit, and it was like the giant mechanical thing. And I was like, they got to figure out a way to do it, and it beats the rubber suit that he wears in the cartoons. I dig it.
yeah. And they just kind of left it hanging.
Well, he throws a sewer plate at him. Spider-Man puts a sewer plate on his web and flings it around like a shot put
Yeah,
at him, and then they end it. They don't let you see what happens. They end it as the sewer plate hits the Rhino in the head.
yeah.
Yep.
I go on from there. Tom, let's talk about the Marvel ones because that's where we're kind of at right now.
Yeah.
I think Tom Holland is a good enough young Spider-Man. I'll start with the pros. I mean, I think he's the first one that's kind of built like a young Ultimate Spider-Man from the Ultimate line when he was way smaller.
Yeah.
I think he's a grade A actor, of course.
Yeah.
I don't. Since day one, though, he's never felt like Spider-Man to me from the comics. In that, we've missed the entire Uncle Ben thing. We've missed the that's I don't want to. Well, I hadn't seen the movie, and maybe all of my concerns are already answered because I've heard good reviews from it. But we haven't seen the with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, I hate to say it, he's the dumbest Spider-Man we've seen so far. Like he makes the most mistakes. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the thing. No, go ahead and finish your thought because I was gonna come in off that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think they're going to fix all that probably in this one. I think they've been building up to his naivety. I mean, he's the first one he just takes big risks. Like, he trusted Mysterio with his identity and all this kind of stuff. And the trailer for this one looks like it's his fault that the Doctor Strange spell goes bad. Like, maybe they're building it all up to have, two things. Maybe they're building it all up to everybody wants Tobey Maguire to give him the with great power comes great responsibility speech, you know?
Yeah.
And the second thing is, and why I'm saying maybe all of this means nothing, is this is an alternate timeline. This is not 616 Spider-Man. Like that's been confirmed. So maybe that's why they haven't done it. We hadn't seen Uncle Ben. I mean, that's just I harp on that because people are like, well, I don't want to see Uncle Ben die again. But it's like, man, that's Spider-Man. That's what makes him Spider-Man. That's like saying, you want Superman, but he wasn't raised by John Kent.
Yeah, or hey, I don't want to see Batman's parents get shot again. Well, I mean, that's kind of why he became Batman,
Yeah, it's the driving force. I mean, but anyway, I've got some more stuff, but those are my initial thoughts on all the Spider-Man so far.
Well, for Tom Holland, for what it's worth for him, he, I think he's done a fantastic job with what he's been given.
Yeah.
He's only been given 2 full-length movies, and he was already in a Civil War, and Civil War was before the Infinity Wars and all that. And I mean, that's kind of how he gets introduced. He doesn't even get introduced in his own movie. He gets introduced in as a side character in another movie. And he's doing the best he's got with what he's given. I do think that Zendaya is the best Mary Jane so far. I really enjoy Zendaya anyway as an actress. She plays on the HBO show Euphoria, and she's super talented anyway. So I'm already kind of biased because I'm already a fan of hers, and that might just be like a bias speaking there. But all the same, and his little best friend is cool too. But I guess he was given Spider-Man Homecoming, but when he was given Homecoming, Iron Man was like his dad, right? I mean, Tony Stark was his dad figure, and there was no real origin movie, right? His origin was Civil War. So I get what you're saying with the Uncle Ben, but Marvel's is starting to do what Star Wars did, which is saying if you want to understand this movie, you have to watch this TV show, you have to read that comic book, and you have to link them all up together. Otherwise, you're never going to get the whole story. So that's how you're going to give us all your money by buying all the product.
Yeah,
so
and it's the same company. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's what's happening. So in order to understand why you're coming into the middle of Spider-Man's life and you're not really getting a backstory is because you go look at Loki, because Loki is already addressing the timeline issues. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what's even more confusing for people is Hawkeye, because I've been watching Hawkeye, and I actually think it's a really good show. It's probably of the WandaVision and of the 3 that's come out so far, Hawkeye, WandaVision, and Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Yeah.
I think Hawkeye is the best one by far of all of them. And so far, Hawkeye is taking place after Spider-Man No Way Home. And they revealed it in this last episode that's taking place post it. But that's happening because of a scheduling conflict, because Spider-Man was supposed to come out in July because of COVID. It got pushed back to December. And then Hawkeye was supposed to come out in December because it was supposed to be the follow-up to No Way Home. So when people are watching Hawkeye and then they're watching Spider-Man, they got to understand that all the events of Spider-Man are happening before all the events of the Hawkeye show. So it's really confusing, but I guess if you watch Loki, then you understand how they're mixing the timelines. Oh yeah, I forgot. I left Loki out, that whole group. Loki's really good too. Actually, I think Loki's better than WandaVision and Winter Soldier. I really enjoyed Loki as well. And Loki reveals who the big bad guy is. And spoiler alert, Loki's been out almost a year, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. The big bad guy is Kang the Conqueror. He's the one that's manipulating all the timelines.
Yeah.
He's the one that's doing everything. It's Kang. So, so there you go. But you don't know that. If you watch Spider-Man, if you watch Hawkeye, if you watch all these shows separately, or you don't watch things as they're being released in continuity, and you're not getting all of Spider-Man's backstory before his movie comes out, then you don't understand that he's just an alternate timeline, because you don't understand that in Loki, Kang the Conqueror is the one that's manipulating everybody. So, there you go.
Yeah. Well, and just to branch off on those shows real quick, the only one I saw was Captain America and Winter Soldier, or whatever it's called, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Which I think, for me, has the award for the worst villains in MCU history with the Flag Smashers, which I did not like them. I liked Kurt Russell's kid as a U.S. agent. I thought he did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
He's my favorite character. I almost bought his action figure because I loved it so much. And I was like, man, I didn't think I'd ever care about U.S. Agent.
U.S. Agent was awesome.
Yeah.
My biggest, excuse me. I apologize for that. My biggest I'm overcoming. For anyone listening, I've been under the weather for over a week, and I'm
Mm.
over 10 days into an antibiotic. So I'm just letting the listeners know I'm sounding like I have smoker's cough because well, I don't have smoker's cough, but I am pretty sick, so I apologize. But no, what were we saying? Oh, Falcon, the comics were doing it, and the shows are doing it, giving Falcon the shield, and I've never been on board with that. I followed the original Civil War when it was written, and they're in the mid 2000s, and it was always Winter Soldier. He was always the guy to get it, and I just feel like my biggest disappointment with Infinity War was, they were so concerned with getting Captain America his shield, and they said, well, we have a Winter Soldier. They made a big deal about Winter Soldier coming out of retirement in a couple of scenes, and he stands around, shoots a gun, and disappears.
Yeah,
And it's like, come on, he's a super soldier. And like when they showed everybody charging
Mm-hmm.
for the aliens, Black Panther charged ahead, Captain America charged ahead, right? Everybody, because they were the super soldiers, and Winter Soldier should have been able to keep pace with them and charge ahead too. And it's just and even when they came back in that final fight, that was the most disappointing scene for me, is where Winter Soldier just sat there and shot what seemed like an infinite amount of bullets out of a gun that doesn't have that many bullets. and, and he didn't even fight. They just showed him walking around shooting, and he wasn't like doing anything. And I was like, man, he is as much of a threat as Captain America is. He might can't lift Thor's hammer, but he can grab, Cap's shield or what's left of it and turn it into just as violent as a weapon. I mean,
Yeah, they should have given him the shield. I think they should have,
yeah,
with the MCU, made him Captain America, and then they could have done all kinds of stuff with him, like trying to live up to the legacy. And I mean, especially if he faced off with U.S. Agent the way they did it, and you could have Falcon be a part of that. But I mean, Falcon is two heroes now. It's just weird.
yeah, it's weird.
He's got wings and the shield.
Yeah, it's dumb, and it leaves Winter Soldier with nothing, and I hate that. And then you wonder, what's the point? Like, they put him on ice. If he's just going to be someone's sidekick for the rest of his life, just put him on ice. I mean, put him back under. And that was and like I said, it was my biggest thing, because when they fought, the best MCU movie in my opinion was Captain America Winter Soldier, where
Great movie.
yeah, where Steve Rogers and Bucky went head to head, and he was awesome. He tied with, I mean, Steve Rogers could never really get a leg up. They tied.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean this guy who could go toe to toe with Steve, because he also has a super soldier serum in him, and this guy could go toe to toe with U.S. Agent, who has a super soldier serum in it, and this guy who can just, who struck fear in the heart of Black Widow because he was so destructive, and even Nick Fury didn't want a piece of him. And then he just gets punked in the Infinity series, in both Infinity movies. He's just a punk, and then at the end of Falcon Winter Soldier, he's just somebody's little sidekick. Like, come on, what are you doing to him?
Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to, like, I'm gonna like just make a point, then move on back to Spider-Man. But even the old comic Vine, if you remember that page, like arguments. Yeah. I mean, you did have a difference between bloodlusted Bucky and normal Bucky, but I mean, normal Bucky was still probably the top assassin on the planet. I mean, he outpaced Taskmaster and Black Widow, as you just said. Like, this guy, when he was introduced, the Winter Soldier was the guy. And he was a myth. That's how dangerous he was. And then, of course, you take away the robotic bloodlust, mentality from him. He's got something of a conscience, but like, his skills don't go away. Like this,
no.
This guy, like you said, fought Captain America to a standstill, if not bested him and Black Widow. I mean, both of them and Black Panther had a problem with him.
And he beat Tony Stark's ass in the Avengers Tower. Yeah. Or in the Avengers complex. Remember, he beat all of them. They all tried to stop him, and he broke out of jail and beat them all up. You
Yeah.
know, he almost shot Tony in the face, but Tony had his bulletproof glasses on and bullet bounced. You know, bullet went
Yeah.
off his, and he like saw his life flash before his eyes because you know, Winter Soldier about killed Iron Man. You know,
Yeah.
just so close. Had Tony not been wearing those glasses, he would have been dead. So I mean, you know, and then I mean, I hate that. And they did make him a myth. That's the thing. And they made him a myth in Captain America and Winter Soldier. He
Hmm.
was this you know he wore the mask, you know, and he wore the black eyeliner, and he was the guy who you know who's this guy, you know, what's going on.
Hmm.
But you know, but back to Spider-Man. I mean, I think that all kind of. I think we were talking about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and I think that issue with Winter Soldier and all that comes back to Spider-Man because my issue is that they want to give fan service to fans, but they also want to have enough creativity. I don't know what I don't know what they're doing with their creative license. It's like we want to give creative license, but we want to give fan service,
Hmm.
or you're going to do one or the other. You know, it's the same issue with Star Wars. It's people liking it's giving fan service to Star Wars fans who are willing to accept anything that's given to them. And I think that's what's happening with Spider-Man and with the MCU in general. It's like there's no want for quality, right? I'm a fan of Spider-Man. I'll just take whatever you hand me of Spider-Man because I'm a fan of Spider-Man, right?
Hmm.
So, and I'm not doubting No Way Home, the new movie. I've seen great reviews of it too. I've heard it's the best one yet. So, you know, I'm not doubting it, and I definitely plan to see it. And I'm a big supporter of the MCU. And as much as I just harped on the Infinity Saga, both Infinity War movies are you know are some of my favorite Marvel movies, especially Endgame. I loved Endgame, you know, but I don't know. It's just I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm hoping.
It's just too much. It's either too much fan service or too much creativity, and there's no even. There's nothing like there's no balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and I'm going to speak to the heart, and Josh and I talked about it or touched on it last week. But this idea of Spider-Man, the Spider-Man verse is just it's too big. Like Spider-Man was
Yeah.
supposed to be like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, you know,
Yeah.
and that's why the Tobey Maguire movies did that until they brought in Venom and three other villains for whatever reason, but. It's supposed to take place in New York, feel kind of small, but he makes a big impact, and and I know it's because of the MCU, and I'm trying not to down it, especially since I haven't seen No Way Home. But I'm like, man, what? It just feels like especially in the trailer, he's complaining about his life, but it's like this Spider-Man hasn't suffered that much. Like he hasn't. He has the girl. He's landed I think they're gonna probably take everything away from him. I mean, I'm just making a I could be wrong. I'm making a speculation here. I think that they're gonna displace him in another dimension and then replace him with Miles Morales.
All right. So, do you know the? Okay. So here's where we get into the legalities because I
Yeah,
enjoy contract diving and I'm a nerd like that. I like to get into who belongs to who. So do you know actually the direction that that Sony was doing with this? Do you know about the contract issues they had and everything?
yeah, they want him in their universe.
Right. So here's what's happened. So for listeners who don't understand or don't know, so the MCU has never owned, or Disney, well, just instead of MCU, I'll say Disney. Disney has never owned Spider-Man. What happened was when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man wrapped, um, Disney wanted to use him, and the reason why Disney could not get an original movie with him was because Sony, who owned Spider-Man, didn't clear it. However, Sony wanted a piece of the pie when Civil War came out. So Sony lended Spider-Man on an indefinite contract, for however long until we call him back, contract to Disney. And so Disney was able to use him in their version of him, rather. And we're talking about the name now. We're talking about the name, the logo, in Civil War. And they were able to continue using him. But every time Disney used him, Disney had to ask permission. For every movie Tom Holland has been in, Disney has to ask permission from Sony. Can we use Tom Holland? Can we use Tom Holland? because Tom Holland is the original Andrew Garfield. It's all very confusing. It's
Yeah.
all legalities and red tape. So what has happened is Disney pays Sony whatever price they ask, and then they get permission to use Tom Holland's Spider-Man for whatever movie they're going to use it in. Well, Sony decided that Tom Holland is enough of a draw that they want Spider-Man back. They have a series of Venom movies, and Venom, that movie's already been out. If the movie's been out over a month, I'm spoiling it. I'm sorry. Venom shows the Tom Holland Spider-Man in the Venom movie because he's technically part of Sony. So they can do that. So now you have a continuity issue. What's happening is Sony says, I want a piece of the pie. He can stand alone by himself. So Sony has announced 3 new Spider-Man movies to come out, featuring Tom Holland as the Spider-Man. But that can't happen if Tom Holland is with Disney, the MCU. So by creating a Spider-Verse, they're able to displace Tom Holland's Spider-Man, put him in the Sonyverse, where Morbius is going to be there, Venom is going to be there, Carnage is already there, all these guys are already there, and then they can have Tom Holland for their 3 movies, his Spider-Man, and that gives Disney the ability to create their own Spider-Man from scratch, which I would imagine would probably be Miles Morales. Yeah. So, or if not him, they'll do like a Spider-Girl, or they'll do something, whatever they'll do. They have the ability to do whatever they want to do, and they can take it in any direction they want to take it. And this is why you're seeing Tobey Maguire come in. This is why you're seeing Andrew Garfield come in, because these guys are coming in and they're saying, Tobey Maguire is Fox, or I think he was Fox, which Disney now owns, and he's saying, passing the torch, right? Andrew Garfield passing the torch. Tom Holland passing the torch because he's going back to Sony, to whoever's going to replace them in Disney. And I know that's confusing, so for any listeners who can't quite wrap their head around it, just Google search it, and you don't even have to do that. You can just go on Twitter. I mean, I wouldn't advise going to social media for any information, but, you can just, if you follow along contracts and you like to do that kind of thing, but that's what that is. It's all Sony wanting Tom Holland for their 3 movies that they're going to line up with Venom and do all their stuff that they're going to do. So this is how they're doing it. We are watching the deal between Disney and Sony happen in front of us. That's what we're watching. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna see No Way Home either in theaters or I guess if it comes out on Disney Plus or whatever. But
yeah,
I'm not hyped. I'm not excited about it. I have nothing against it. It's just what you just kind of described, and I kind of have fatigue of this. It's hard for me to care about Spider-Man anymore.
Yeah,
but maybe I've heard it's good.
I'm gonna see it, but I'm not gonna. I mean, I'm probably not gonna see it in theaters. I don't know because it, wherever personal life dictates. I don't know if I'm gonna just, time is a thing, and I just don't know if I have time, just to set aside to go just. Hey, I'm just gonna pop in and we'll go watch a movie.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of time right now. So, but eventually if it comes on Disney Plus before I can get to the theaters, I'll watch it. I'm excited about it. I mean, you're not excited? You're really not? I'm exhausted from it, but I'm not so exhausted that I don't,
I'm actually more excited to see Morbius.
Yeah, Jared Leto, man, he's playing Morbius, isn't he?
Yeah, I just want to see. I want to see like vampire stuff.
Yeah,
more than
Blade.
Yeah, I'd love to see Blade, like another Blade.
Is it,
as long as they do it R.
Mahershala Ali coming on as Blade? Is it reprising? Yeah.
I don't know if
awesome.
He's not. I don't know if he's big enough, but he's certainly a great actor. Like he's a wonderful actor. I
love his work, and he's a couple of Oscars, and I've watched the movies that he's won awards for, and absolutely every one of them deserved. I'm a huge fan of him.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him as Blade. So,
I'll bet you are.
Yeah. Hey man, I like who I like.
Yeah, I think it's cause my favorite. I don't want to go down a whole other rabbit hole, but my favorite Spider-Man story has got to be the Craven's Last Hunt,
Oh man, yeah.
and it's just like it's so weighty and it's so good, and it's one of the most serious things that Spider-Man ever went through, and I would love to see something like that after the MCU is done with the current Spider-Man. Like I'd really like maybe Sony will do something to that effect. I mean, I'd be fine if they made a Craven movie where it's like Craven comes out of nowhere, he's hunting Spider-Man. They could even do like that he's old, like Craven's like 90 or 100 because that was how the comics were. He kept himself young with his herbs or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
make
Oh, didn't he get involved in like some like tribal magic too or something like that?
yeah, and that was the
Yeah.
and just you could do a whole movie like start it like that where he's this guy that's just hunting Spider-Man. He does it, and Spider-Man can't understand why he's so relentless, and turns out he's dying, and maybe he beats Spider-Man and then kills himself, and that's the end of it, and that's the whole movie. It'd be like The Dark Knight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what my favorite Craven angle ever was, speaking of Spider-Man villains, was I loved The Last Hunt. That was awesome. But I really loved when the 90s animated cartoon, they did Punisher and Craven teamed up to
Oh
take on the
yeah,
Man Spider.
yeah,
Yeah, they
that
took
was really good.
yeah, and the Man Spider had to survive both Punisher and Craven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one.
Yeah, and I forgot how he even got out of that. I don't know if Daredevil was involved in that or what,
Then I
but
had a comic. I wish I could find it. I had a comic in the '90s where Daredevil like took Spider-Man to school. Like it was bad. And Spider-Man's like super frustrated because he's like, I'm so much stronger than this guy. He's just a human. Like how is he beating the
the
crap out
man
of
with no
me?
fear.
Yeah, no.
Daredevil has always been one of my favorites, man. He's another localized hero. He's not a hero that's meant to go big. He
Yeah,
stays in Hell's Kitchen. You know, it's he kind of just stays to his neighborhood. But man, he's the man without fear. He's awesome.
well,
Daredevil is
yeah.
awesome.
Well, let's catch up on Daredevil and another one. Let's go ahead and call this one quits for Spider-Man. Cause
Okay.
all right, give me just a second, and we'll catch all you guys later.